This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1239, and it's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, is Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, artist, producer, mogul, Derek Miner.
What's happening?
And just down the street there in Nashville, our managing editor, downtown, Emily Brown.
Hey, y'all.
Okay, before we get going, I have some news. Derek, you may not know this news. We're recording this on Friday, the day that our podcast usually comes out.
Okay.
Derek, Marty, Emily, and I recorded a podcast, the Friday episode. And as soon as we got done, I went to do the extra stuff I do, and I went to then download all the files. And for the first time in 20 years of podcasting, I did not hit record when we started our podcast. This is going to be a mega episode because Emily and I have decided to pull some of the really good stuff from that episode into this episode. So, Derek, you're going to relive some experiences today with Jesse and the rest of us.
It's funny because it was one of the most wild and ghetto episodes we ever recorded. That's what makes it hilarious.
Can I be honest with you? After the gut punch, after I came to grips with what happened, and I called Emily, I was like, honestly, in hindsight, of all the episodes to not make it to air, this is probably the one that shouldn't have made it there.
This might have been God being like, I don't know, y'all.
Divine protection happened to Relevant.
God's providence. That's what it was. God was watching out for us.
For real.
It's just better that none of this ever existed.
It doesn't exist. It wasn't like I didn't post it.
Happened.
There's no record. You can't prove nothing. You can't prove nothing. So
I one time, this is true.
If you took me to court to prove that I said the things I said, you could not prove it in a court of law. So thank you very much.
Listen, real quick. Speaking of court, it's funny you mentioned court, but I do want to say my record is 3. That I one time, and this is recently, we did not hit record on an interview on something. Had the person back, did not hit it again.
No, Jesse. No. Not two for one, bro.
That's bad. That's
3
bad.
for 1?
We got it the third time. But I'll tell you that. I'll tell you this. That third email was pretty awkward. It was like when you're in your own head about it, like, you know, it's they say when you're like learning to drive a car, like don't look at the thing you don't want to hit. Just keep your eyes on the road, or else you're going to steer right towards it. Yeah, it was just one of those things. Got in our own head, and oh my gosh, it happened again.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
Yeah, at some point you just hang up the cleats, but we did 3. But it's funny you mentioned court, Cameron.
Yes.
I haven't frequented court a lot, but I was there recently. And
me too. Last month, I won't say why, but like for the first time in my life, I went to court.
As an adult, every once in a while, you have to go for one reason or another. Sometimes what's that?
Why do you have to go to court if you're a law-abiding citizen? Like it's not a normal occurrence. Well, you're there because something went sideways,
or you're there to support someone else who's there, or you're like a witness, or
that's true.
I'll say this, man. My dream of a lot of people dread jury duty. I cannot wait for it. I got summoned one time and the court it got canceled like the next day. Jury duty is my dream. And I was in the courtroom and they had the empty jury stuff, but they still had like witnesses and the whole thing. It is high drama. Being a jury. Have you guys ever served jury duty?
I got to the end one time, like I got called in and I got to the very end and like to the point where the lawyers and the judge are like interviewing you. And I just kind of raised my hand and said, I'm in Christian media. I'm a single dad. I got to get my kid from school every day. I mean, I have a bunch of reasons why I can't do this. And they're like, that's actually all valid. You can be excused.
I got
out of it.
I would say, court, I have numerous reasons why I can't do it. But let me tell you why I can. Because I love this. I love it.
You're like pitching yourself to
high
them.
Human drama. Like, the passive aggressiveness of a lawyer. They will greet the witness. Oh, hi, how are you doing today? Oh, good. Thanks for joining us. I want to ask you something about you. Like I saw a cross-examination during this thing, and I'm telling you, the mind games happening between the witness and the lawyer. It was enthralling to witness. But what I liked too was like before the thing I had been there to kind of be a witness to, they just call up person after person to go and do their plea or whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you go in, like courtrooms are public. So you can just, any day, you could just walk into a court, you'd like walk into like the courthouse area, go into any courtroom and just sit there. And no one asked. Like, there's nothing stopping you.
But
any day just from doing this. Did you guys know that?
I walked into the wrong courtroom, and it was like some financial thing, and it was like the judge, the two lawyers, and I opened the door, not knowing where I thought I was going the right one. Opened the door. They all turned around and looked at me, and one said, in the middle of the thing, one said, "Can I help you?" And I was like, think I'm not supposed to be here. Very sorry.
I guess my courthouse is different because people are just wandering in and taking a seat. But anyway, I go, and you don't know who you're sitting down to. It's like old church pew style. Okay, It's not like chairs.
Right.
And you're just
Did they have the black church got a little Martin Luther King hand fan? Did they have a Martin Luther King hand fan?
They can, because it was high drama. People were sweating it in there. But you don't know who you're going to sit next to. You just find a spot,
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, excuse me. And I just find a little seat. So I'm sitting next to this guy. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, yeah. And you're kind of whispering, but you're sitting there for a while. And, I just assume he's like me, like something is happening that he is there to kind of observe or in case there's, anyway. So we're sitting there and he's an older guy. Okay. He wasn't dressed up. A lot of people there are dressed up. And that was like, oh, he must not be involved in a case because he's just wearing like a t-shirt. He was probably like mid-50s. Do you guys remember on Parks and Rec, the guy Sewage Joe who worked at the sewage?
Yeah.
He kind of had that vibe to him, like a real blue collar guy.
Sewage Joe is crazy.
Yeah. But with some tattoos, just a real blue collar older dude, little scruffy vibe. Anyway, we're sitting there and we're like, we're just kind of like, how's it going?
Of course, you're chit chatting with him, weren't you?
Anyway, they call a name and he goes, and stands up and goes up there. And he has like his public defender and he's standing before the judge and they're reading off his crime. I'm like, wow. I was sitting with this guy. I mean, it involves a firearm and everything. But anyway.
Oh, shoot. Sewage Joe is lit.
Listen, but I'm not making judgment. I'm not making judgment about anybody's past
for sure
wrong choices.
For sure.
Because they gave him, I don't know if I'm supposed to, it's a public hearing, I guess. I'm not reviewing the guy's name, but they gave him 2 365-day sentences, but they suspended all but like 5 days of them on the condition of like going to, these monitoring programs and all this stuff. And he comes and sits down. I'm like, not too bad. He's like, no, not too bad.
Oh my gosh, Jesse. You did not.
I mean, I was pretty invested in his case at that point. I heard the charges.
Oh my gosh.
What did he say when you said not too bad? He high-fived you or something?
No, because and then he was like, they were like, can you report right now? And he's like, I got work tomorrow. Kind of report to the jail after work. They're like, all right, what time do you get off? And he's like, oh, what time? Where is your work? And they're like, okay, well, you can.
I didn't know they were that nice. I thought it was like
Well, that's what he got back.
You got sentenced and you got to go to jail. Right?
No, they gave him a whole day to get to work tomorrow and button up a couple things at wherever he works. I was like, that's not too bad. He seems like it worked out okay.
I think I was in a very different type of courtroom because obviously there's civil, there's different, criminal. This
was criminal.
Criminal. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't a criminal. Mine, the lawyers didn't want to be there. They were just like, it was like literally like it's that, like they hate their job. They're wearing rumpled suits. One guy goes up to talk to the judge, like goes up to the stand to like put into a plea, never let go of his briefcase. Like he so didn't even want to be there. He just was like, like a rumpled suit that was clearly wadded up in his backseat of his.
You say he looked like Drewski?
Honestly, literally, like it looked like his suit was just rumpled in the backseat of his Tercel, and he like threw it on, and he has this old worn briefcase, and then he was just in and out, But like, yeah, it was a very boring court.
My guys were straight up Saul Goodman status. I mean, pinstripes. Like everyone in there was a compelling personality, whether it was some low level criminal or someone that they were representing. Their lawyers. This is the thing too. I found the seat was kind of in the corner because I had my dude right next to me, and then I was kind of up against the armrest of the pew, and there was like I was on the edge of the room, and there was like a door, and I just thought it was like a door out to a hallway. anyway, they open, and I'm very curious when I'm in there because I don't know how this whole operation works. They open the door, and it's like there's a chair, and then there's glass, and then there's like someone who's like an inmate in there. And that's where the lawyer goes and confers with them before the trial. And I can hear through the door because I'm right there. And, I hear the negotiations. It's very dramatic. One guy was going to plead innocent, and they're like, listen, everyone else involved is telling them you were involved. Are you sure you want to do it? And the lawyer talked him out of it. It was high drama, guys. And you could just go sit there any day you want and observe this.
I've only been to court once, and it was when I was in high school. It was because
what'd you do?
I was speeding, of course.
Oh.
I got a ticket like 3 weeks after I got my license because I have a lead foot, according to my dad. Anyways, but I had to appear in court to like deal with it because I was a minor or whatever. Well, so I go in and my mom's with me, and we tell them my name, Emily Brown, and they tell me I have to go appear in front of a judge. And I thought I was just gonna have to go to the courthouse like clerk and kind of deal with this. So we go sit, and then the judge calls my name up. And so then my mom and I are like, I have to like literally stand before a judge for a speeding ticket. I was going like maybe 15 over. And so then I go and stand there, and then she starts reading me about how I haven't paid my child support and how I haven't, and like I'm going to go to jail for all these things. And
she kind of couldn't tell that you were a 16-year-old girl?
Because my mom's with me. So I think she thought my mom was.
She thought you was the child.
Turns out there was another woman named Emily Brown in like my town who was skipping out on child support. And so she was like being taken on the same day. Wow. So
dang, Emily.
That's why you got to give your kids unique names. Otherwise, they're going to be scared for life at 17 going to the court.
Well, at least you got to experience that because I was like, wow.
Did you get called up? Were you a witness or anything?
No.
You were just there?
I was there. But that's the thing. I don't think it'd be a weird thing to do on your day off just to go sit there.
Dude, go get in line for the Diddy trial. That'd be entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm good. I don't want to know nothing about what's going on over there. If your lawyer is like, you know what, I'm good. Nope.
Oh yeah. I mean, if y'all don't follow the headlines, we follow the Diddy headlines very closely. Obviously, last week, Diddy's one of his defense lawyers quit, and you can't just quit. You have to file a thing with the judge saying, please excuse me from this case. And in the judge filing, he said, under no circumstances can I represent this man. The thing is that lawyer previously represented Osama bin Laden and saw it through trial. Like,
it gotta be bad.
He was like, I'm good with Osama, but this I can't handle.
Yeah, it gotta be bad. Like whatever is going on is. So I'll just, you know what? I'm just gonna keep remembering the No Way Out album, and anything after No Way Out.
Yeah.
It's over with, bro.
Here's the other, I was a little, I want to see in a courtroom because I haven't ever seen this is sketch artist. Okay.
Stupid.
No, real quick. When you think about it, okay, you have someone who trained their entire life, presumably in art. Okay. I have to, if they're doing it professionally, they have to have some background.
Sure.
And maybe they went to art school. Could you imagine being the art school grad and it's like, well, I'm just drawing pictures in a courtroom all day. I guess it's better than like doing boardwalk caricatures, but really it's not that different.
That's true.
One you just dress up for.
But at least the other one, in the courtroom, you get to hear interesting stories. Jesse, it's interesting hearing you talk about like how much you want to be in a courtroom because I'm thinking about, the show Jury Duty that came out like 2 years ago.
I loved it.
I'm imagining if you were the person that was randomly picked to be a part of it, your story on the show would have been like, I don't think people would have been able to tell that you were the random one pick because you would have been invested and interested in doing it.
I will lead us. He'd be the foreman.
You were like, make me a pair of chair pants. You know what I mean? Like you would have been just as insane as everyone else.
Ironically, Sewage Joe was among the jury.
He was actually, yeah.
All right. Well, we have a great show coming up. Joining us today is filmmaker John Erwin. You may not know his name, but you know his work. You know how there's like been some good Christian movies in recent years? Are usually Lionsgate, the studio Lionsgate, puts them out like the For King Country one and
Jesus Revolution,
stuff like that. Well, John Erwin's the filmmaker who's done those. This past weekend, a couple days ago on Amazon Prime, his new project, House of David, which is his first foray into television, telling obviously the story of David from the Bible, that premiered on Amazon Prime. So we talked to him about that. And his goal of making Christian movies not quite so cheesy moving forward. So that's pretty cool.
Praise God.
Thank you, John Erwin.
Thank
we
you,
want to
John.
honor you, John Erwin,
Yeah.
and bring you on the
God's work.
podcast today. At the end of the show, we have a little game. Jesse mentioned Jury Duty. We love these kind of quirky, weird, TV shows. There's a show on Max or HBO, if you saw it last year, called Florida Man, and it's like literal stories. It's almost like Drunk History, where like they take real stories, and then they have funny comedic actors and real dramatic actors like reenact these Florida Man stories on HBO. It's like unbelievable.
Oh, I need to watch that.
Dude, it's really funny. It's like a late night HBO show, And then, but anyway, we saw a word that they are doing season 2 of the Florida Man show. So literally in my Instagram feed, I'm seeing things of, hey, if you're in Florida, if you have any crazy stories, let us know. We're looking for new stories for season 2. So it got me thinking, there are a lot of weird Florida Man stories. So we're doing a game. Is this a real Florida Man story or is it fake? So is it a Florida headline or not? That game's coming up. And I will be honest, we did play a version of this game on the podcast that did not record, and it worked. So we're bringing it back with some new stories.
That was a highlight for sure.
That was the only highlight for sure of that episode. But stay tuned. Right now, up next, it's Slices. Okay, it's time for
Slices.
What do you have, Jesse?
All right. So as you're listening to this, you are relishing in the results of the Academy Awards. And I'm sure, a relevant magazine, there will be a nice write-up of some of the results. But there's also a good chance you didn't care and didn't watch at all, because a recent study found that nearly half, 48% of adults in the USA did not even see one of this year's top 10 best pick.
That feels low to me. That feels very low.
Well, there's a little bit of a curve breaker because Wicked is among the nominees, and Wicked actually was vastly more popular in terms of just people who saw it. I'm not talking about critical reception than the other nominees. Can I read the other nominees?
Please.
And just just around the table. Give me a yes or no whether you saw that. Okay, let's start with Wicked. I did see Wicked.
I did not.
Yes.
No.
Dune Part 2.
Yes.
No.
No.
The Substance.
Yes.
Never heard of it.
What?
A complete unknown.
Yes.
Wait, who was that?
The
What
Bob
was that
Dylan
Timothy
one.
Chalamet, Bob Dylan.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that
The
yet.
sort of avant-garde Bob Dylan biopic. Derek?
Yeah.
You already know the answer.
Even saying this one, I'm getting bored. Conclave.
I saw it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Derek, Conclave.
Nah.
I'm Still Here.
No.
Remind me?
I don't know.
It's a Brazilian film. I would be really
Then
shocked
no.
if you'd seen it.
No.
Nickel Boys.
No.
No, but
Never
if
heard of
you
it.
want to.
Amelia Perez.
No, because I've heard it's terrible.
Emily.
No, I did not see it.
Derek.
I know who Rosie Perez is.
The Brutalist, which I heard is about 4.5 hours long.
Yeah, no.
About-
I heard it was brutal to watch, so I didn't watch it.
Yes.
I have a lot more to do in my life for 4 hours than watch a movie.
I would rather watch a 4-hour marathon of Survivor than watch The Brutalist. Thank you very much.
And finally, Honora.
Yes.
No.
Derek, Honora.
That's amore. That's amore.
Very different movie.
So Emily, you've seen about 70% of them that I
Yeah,
could
there's
tell.
only, I think, 3 that I haven't seen.
I've seen one. Jesse, you saw one?
Yeah, I
Wicked.
saw Wicked. Yeah.
I'm an 0 for
Yeah.
0 for 10.
So, well, you're in good company with about a half of American adults. But in your guys' opinion, and we cover culture, right? And I feel like we all enjoy movies. The idea a couple years ago, when they expanded the field from like 6 to 10 Best Picture nominees, is that the idea is they would have inclusion of more mainstream films, because increasingly there was a sentiment that the Academy Award was getting out of touch. But the reason they were out of touch is because the field was so limited that they could only include the ones that they felt like had the most artistic merit and would have a bias against ones that had like a mainstream appeal. That's when it was an era where films like The Artist, like a black and white musical
Right.
that literally no one saw and no one has thought about since, were winning Best Picture. And so the idea is we will expand the field to 10 so that we can include worthy blockbusters. There was even talks about, what if there's like a really good Marvel movie or some of these like Spider-Man animated films that.
But didn't they make a whole other category for those types of movies?
At the Golden Globes, they do have something that's like best box office picture or something like that. Yeah.
They
the popular vote.
So they toyed with the idea of best, I can't remember, it was like best popular film or something. They toyed with doing that right before the best picture, but they decided a better strategy would just be to expand the best picture category. So instead of doing 2, they could just be all inclusive. But we found ourselves back at a place where most of these movies, a lot of people not only have they not seen, haven't even heard of. Outside of maybe Dune 2 and Wicked, I don't know that any of them, maybe a complete unknown, or at least people were aware that Timothée Chalamet was in like a Bob Dylan biopic.
That did pretty well. Yeah, and he did a huge media tour around it.
But that's the point. Like there were these major press campaigns, and there was a genuine effort by studios to market their films to mass audiences, and not because some of these, the strategy was, can this just appeal to critics so that we get Oscar recognition and kind of forego any sort of traditional marketing that would make it appealing to a mass audience? And in some, the format of the film alone, like The Brutalist or like Emilia Perez, which kind of is this weird kind of hybrid musical that they knew was going to be a turnoff to mass audiences. It seems like, I guess what I'm asking is, do you guys think there needs to be some course correction here? Is this
so? You saying they're making whack movies to get nominated for Oscars?
I'm not saying. I'm saying
that's what you're saying.
Essentially, the gulf. I'll say this: the gulf between the films that are being made to win awards and what people actually watch is growing. And I think this year it may be the biggest gulf ever. Do you guys think that this artistic vision that filmmakers will say, I'm going to make something whether it appeals to everyone or not, I just want to execute my vision, even if it doesn't have any sort of appeal, I just want to be recognized by people who recognize art, versus, hey, maybe there's something to say to making something that appeals to a wide audience? It seems like
I disagree.
I disagree, dude. I think there's a place for art and a place for entertainment. And if you try to like I'm thinking of the Kennedy Honors, I'm thinking of MoMA, I'm thinking of opera. I like there's a lane for art that should be excellent and artistic, and there's a place for entertainment. There's a place for the Billboard Music Awards and a place for the Grammy. That's a bad correlation because the Grammys is trying to be mainstream, but there's a place for box office popcorn success, and there's a place for art to be celebrated and honored. I wouldn't want an art museum to dumb it down and put commercials up, or it's two different things in my mind. Art and entertainment are two different things.
I slightly disagree with you, because in my mind, I'm like, if you make something that's so artistic that nobody likes it, then is it even artistic at all?
But they wouldn't put anything that nobody likes. Critics and art aficionados appreciate it. And maybe it's just not our taste, or we don't understand. Just like art critics, like literal art critics, like I don't understand the way they look at art and say this is excellent versus, oh, this is pretty. I would look at it and go, that's pretty or not pretty. They would go, no, I understand. Like, look at this and the meaning and the technique and the this. And it's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I guess if we're saying that film is now in the place of like classical music, then I guess maybe there's an argument for that. But I'm of the opinion that good art resonates with people. That's why I'm of the opinion. Like when I think about like prime example, like Kendrick Lamar. Like Kendrick Lamar is not the most popular pop artist. He doesn't make pop music, but he takes lofty concepts. His music has flavor. It has a story. And I mean, the guy's won Pulitzer Prizes for his art. But there's a difference between Kendrick Lamar and Lil Yachty. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, to me, like good art lives at the Kendrick Lamar level, which it's high enough for the people that appreciate intelligent things can appreciate it. But making a movie that's 4 hours long to just appeal to some critics, to me, you're missing the mark as the purpose of the art. It's to relate a story to the people. So
Well,
if it's only like we're relating the story to a bunch of people with sticks up their butt, like I'm like, to me, I'm like, now you're just trying to play cards for the cool table.
The Kendrick Lamar thing is interesting. So he was winning Pulitzer Prizes when he was not commercially as popular. He's now at the top of the charts for music that isn't going to win a Pulitzer Prize.
Sure.
So he's doing art and entertainment, but he's not doing it both together. He's done his artistic stuff, and now he's doing his mass market successful stuff. The same artist, he's that good, like he's amazing, but he's not going to win a Pulitzer Prize for a diss track.
Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers could have won a Pulitzer Prize. The artistic value of that album could have. I think GNX, the new album, may not win a Pulitzer Prize, but it's because the purpose of that has not. I would say this is the first album that he ventured away from that.
That's right.
Idea of creating art.
And now he's successful.
He said he was successful before that. I mean, he
at
was
a different
selling
level,
arenas
though.
out.
Now he's at a global successful level.
I think the success was the diss record, but the diss record ain't even on GNX. He said GNX is for the streets. Like, he was like, I'm doing this for the ghetto. Like, it was almost like he's like, I did all my art pieces. Now I'm just going to give the streets what they want. So to me, I'm like, that's that. But he still had success in the streets. Yeah. On up to this album. Well, so, Jesse, you've been trying to jump in for like 10 minutes.
No, dude, because that underscores, like, I think the idea of, like, there's a difference between art, especially commercial art, which this is, right? Whether it's music or movies. This isn't just someone posting it for free. These are people making a living from doing this. There's some commercial appeal than just unadulterated expression that who cares if it's appealing or not. I just want to express myself in a manner, whether it's film, music, or books. If it's completely impenetrable to most people, does that take away from the merit of it as a work of art? I guess. And is this just unadulterated expression that's just what I would like to do?
You did just say a big statement, though. You said completely impenetrable to most people, but we haven't seen any of those 9 movies. We don't know.
That's what I was going to ask Emily.
Could be
awesome. Emily, you saw the
Emily,
movies.
What are your thoughts?
You saw the movies.
I have seen those. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of those movies that it's like, I don't think that, like, the movies I've seen, there are a lot that I don't think were made for mass audience. I do think they were made for fellow critical art movie lovers. Right. Because there are a lot of, like, I will say my favorite movie that I watched last year was Conclave, which I have to beg people to watch because it's excellent. It's excellent, but it's about a bunch of cardinals picking the next pope. And yes, that sounds super boring, but it was so interesting. And I thought it was really well done.
Super boring character studies because it's like there will be blood, or like No Country for Old Men, or like, you know, like where it's like slow and beautiful and it's gripping.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be mass successful. Yeah. You know, Conclave is exactly.
No Country for Old Men was pretty successful.
Yeah, you're right.
No,
it was.
And that's the point that I'm making. It's like, okay, I think the reason No Country for Old Men was successful is it's beautifully shot. It is slow, but it's very grounded in the human experience. Now, Conclave, yes, the Pope. Come on, guys. Like, it's just people aren't very interested in that as much, because I think people, even with religion, are kind of like, they're not really interested in that as much. But I just think some of the topics that it feels like that's happening, I don't know. Like, it just feels like we're missing the people, or either that, or the people have just been so dumbed down by entertainment on their phone that it's just like they're not even interested in anything of a certain level. But then I'm asking I would think to the writers, well, then why can't we even? I believe if you made a movie poking fun in a beautifully shot way about where culture is today, and it was artistic, that people would go to it and they would go see it. I think an example of that is Get Out. Like Jordan Peele did an excellent job of taking the horror genre and then taking the horror genre, taking scenarios that we all know and making a beautiful art piece. Like, Get Out was a great art. He took a horror film and didn't make slasher film. He made something that's thoughtful, artistic, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just like, that's the kind of stuff I'm a fan of. So to be real, like, most of the topics of the things that you guys, besides maybe Dune, because I like sci-fi, but most of the topics of the stuff that you're talking about, I have zero interest in. Like, I don't know much about Brazil.
Yeah. Well, like I even think about something like The Substance, which is a horror film, and it's really about a commentary on how society essentially is ageist, is really what it gets to, because it's about an older actress having this, hard to explain without getting into the weeds of it, but like there's a younger actress and an older actress, and there's tension between them. I'll leave it at that. But like that's an interesting that has a wider appeal, but it's horror, so people don't really like it as much. I think what's been really interesting over the last year is the way that all these movies have been marketed. Like I was really like the way Timothée Chalamet marketed anything he did last year was so funny to me, because he was going on like these sports talk shows, or like Theo Vaughn, and it's like, you're playing Bob Dylan in a movie. Like, why are you doing this? But it's like, I think his studio was aware there's not a lot of people, maybe Timothy's age, who are necessarily interested in a Bob Dylan biopic, but they like him, so let me get out and market him. I don't know. That's what's been interesting to me, is watching the marketing tactics.
I think you made also a great point there. Maybe it's not that the films were made just for highbrow people. Maybe it's just, I mean, just as an artist that tries to market myself and market other artists, like just getting connected to people that actually even care about you is hard. So the idea of scaling a message to people that you're trying to win over to come see something that you don't know if they have interest in or not is really hard. Like it is extremely hard to get people to sit down and pay attention. So I don't know if it's that the films are bad and they're just marketing to highbrow people, or maybe it's just like, hey, we know we can't get to the masses, but we can get this stuff to the critics that care about it. So let's just make it for the critics. Yeah. So I don't know. It's an interesting time we're in.
Yeah.
I'll have to say, go watch Conclave, guys. It was really so good.
For real.
I promise.
And the Pope's about to die, so it's like timely. So there you go.
Whoa.
He is in critical, and he's
in critical condition.
Honestly, to be honest with you, it was about a week ago, and this story of his health, and they're going to have to, all this thing was in the news, and I was like, I've been seeing Conclave promoted on one of the streaming apps. I was like, oh, I should watch that. So I literally did, because it became timely and interesting to me. But you're right. A month ago, I wouldn't have cared about Pope backroom decisions, but we're about to have that happen. Yeah. So I watched it, and it was unbelievably good.
This is also something that's interesting to me, because like, yes, I do watch a lot of movies. I'm also a movie person. I don't necessarily have to find something relatable or interesting to want to see it. Like there are many movies, like, if you know anything about the movie Anora, it's about a sex worker. I have nothing in common with her, but I just like good movies, and I like that the director made another movie I love called The Florida Project.
Debbie Does Dallas. Oh, sorry.
No, called The Florida Project. And I love that movie. So I was like, well, let me see like what he does.
The Florida Project was depressing, and because it was very hit home. It was shot here in South Orlando.
but it brings up a point, like, is the point of art to be entertaining or even enjoyable, or is it to be an experience that leaves you with a sense of expression? And I think that's the core.
Does it impact you? Does it affect you? I agree with you. Is it about entertain me, or is it challenge me, move me, open my eyes to something? Like that's where I'm saying art and entertainment by and large are two different things. Every once in a great while, there will be something that converges the two.
And that's what I feel. But that's the stuff that is most transcendent, in my opinion. Yeah.
Like, but it doesn't happen every year. I mean, we're literally talking about
filming the Oscars. Then they need to stop filming it and putting it for all of us to hear them nominate stuff we don't know nothing about. They need to go on and do it in the back room where they made this movie and where they watching it at, because ain't nobody going to the theaters and doing it. Stop filming.
They just need to take like the Netflix top 10 for the year and just be like, we're just naming one of these because we probably saw these.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do.
Well, no, because Emilia Perez was a Netflix movie, and like all the critics are like, this movie was terrible. Like,
but what I'm saying is, like, it wasn't in the top 10 slides. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that like, I mean, if we did that method,
you just want the Oscars to become the People's Choice Awards, and there's a place for the People's Choice Awards. It's two lanes, dude.
Look, this is how you fix it.
Okay.
Make the movies for the highbrow people, and then whenever they decide on what's the top 10 movie, don't let nobody else vote. Just let them vote, and then drop it on Netflix for the dummies. Here, dummies. This is the top 10 that just came out, and y'all get to watch it if you want to, and put it next to reruns of Tiger King, and
or that Jamie Foxx, Cameron Diaz spy.
Right, the flight risk.
Put it right there, and we call it a day.
The only thing with that is it's come out in the last few weeks that a lot of Oscar voters have not watched the movies. They've admitted. Right. They're like, I only got to watch.
So they ain't even watching the movies.
Literally.
They bored too.
Well, speaking of, sorry, I know we've belabored this, but there was a really interesting anecdote that came out recently that Netflix is pushing for writers of a lot of their projects to write in exposition scenes frequently throughout films. So, if you're watching a movie, you'll hear a character find a need to explain what's happening, where they're at, and what they're doing next. You know what I mean?
They're catching up to anime. That's what anime does.
But frequently there's scenes of exposition because they found that a lot of people are very distracted while watching their movies. They're doing laundry or goofing around on their phone or whatever, that they have actually made a requirement for a lot of their writers to frequently write in exposition, so you only have to pay half attention. We're just talking about how commerce and watching experiences actually affects the art itself. That's the other end of the spectrum,
It's like my reality shows. They do the confessionals thing to tell you, they'll be like, this is what I was thinking when that happened.
Your reality shows.
All right. What do you have, Emily?
Okay, well, it is officially March, which means March Madness is right around the corner. I know all of us are famously big sports people. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
Why'd you laugh, Cameron? Listen, I've talked more about sports in the last year than I have in my entire life. So
you said all of us, though.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I laughed, because you were saying that ironically.
They not like us.
No, I'm a sports person now. I'm a big sports girl.
Okay,
what's your
go.
favorite sport?
Okay.
You say what's my favorite sport?
Yeah.
All of them. There's just too many to choose.
just the idea of sport.
It's the one with the ball. You know which one I'm talking about. And the running and the catching and
the scoring. She likes all the scoring that happens.
I know we're all interested in sports. I guess I'm assuming Jesse and Cameron are probably the most excited for actual March Madness, though, which is about to start, right?
Yeah. I watch no college basketball until March Madness, so that's when I get interested. I am a Florida Gator fan, lifelong. They're doing very good this year. They're number 2 or number 3, depending on the week. So I have paid attention to the headlines more, though I have watched no games. The college basketball game, if you're an NBA fan, the college basketball game is a very different style and pace of basketball, and it's kind of tough if you love NBA basketball. So anyway, I do like March Madness, though.
Yeah,
so.
Agreed.
Okay, well, you mentioned Florida was number 2 and number 3. Did you know number 1 team consistently throughout the season has been Auburn University out in Alabama?
Yeah, having a great year.
And what's even more interesting about them than, their great athleticness, skills, feats, I don't know the terminology. What's even more interesting is that they are all Christians on the team. And they are very outspoken about their faith and
that's dope
in their games and in sports and interviews and post games interviews and things like that. And I just think it's really interesting. I was looking into a lot of the things they've done, and it's been over the last few years that the team has just grown closer together in their faith. Back in 2022, the coach actually took the team to the Holy Land, took them to Israel to visit the holy sites. Some of them got baptized in the Jordan River. And ever since then, they do Bible studies together, they pray together, and they just live life as Christians and as teammates, which is really cool. But what's awesome is other people are catching on to it. There was a clip I saw this week from the SEC where they were talking about how they've been going on mission trips together even. And we have a clip to play right now.
Cardwell, we mentioned it going out to that break, so much more than meets the eye with one of Auburn's quintessential glue guys on this roster now for a number of years. And he continues to give back away from the game as well. Dylan's been on 2 mission trips in the last year. One to El Salvador, the most recent trip to Honduras, where he worked with Forgotten Children's Ministry, spreading the gospel, donating $14,000 of his own money to the organization. He spoke of that trip to us earlier today. He called it life-changing, life-saving. The kids that he went and spoke to, and some of his teammates did as well, would gather around. They were giving them these little toy cars. They were so excited to see Dylan and his buddies down there in Honduras. And he said, it humbled me. It keeps me grounded to this very day. And just amazing to see. You hear all the conversations about NIL and what it's done to the game. It's done a lot of positive things. In the case of Dylan Cardwell, that's just one small example.
Excellent partner. And Dylan Caldwell has always been a man of faith, even as much as he prayed with Elijah Martin in their game before Florida. He told us he thought he prayed a little too well for him, though, in the loss.
Those NIL deals, going back to doing the good work.
Let's get it. I love it.
So, if you're looking for a team to root for March Madness, I always go based on vibes. I'm getting good vibes from Auburn personally.
Jesus vibes. You get Holy Spirit
Go
vibes.
UT, University of Tennessee. That's what we're going for.
You are not getting Jesus vibes in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'll tell you that much right now.
or literally any Christian or Catholic school. I think, yeah.
It's just so rare that a state school is this overt with their Christianity.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, kind of like, how is it legal that a state school's coach took the players to the Holy Land? But hey,
there might be a chance that some people will be questioning that in the next few years. But yeah.
Go Auburn.
Yeah.
You could go to Israel. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Just because of the history there don't mean we're not supposed to go there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I was at the baptism service and stuff like that. I'm just, if it's a school trip.
That's part of it. If you want to do it, as long as they didn't make you do it, I think that is fine.
There you go. I agree with you. I was just saying I'm surprised there's not more pushback with how overt the culture of the program is Christian. Yeah. But hey, we're celebrating it. We posted this on Instagram this past week, and it's got a lot of attention and stuff like that. This morning that we're recording this, I was just kind of looking at relevance reactions and stuff, and I noticed that Dick Vitale liked the Auburn post.
Let's go.
And I know who
got
he
over
is.
to Dickie V's feed.
Let's get it.
And I obviously know who that guy is. But for other people listening, who is he again?
He's a legendary college basketball commentator, former coach back in the day, but he's iconic. So what? Why are you laughing?
No, I'm laughing because
Emily
Derek's
knows
so
exactly what's
disappointed in
going
me.
on because she just baited you into explaining it to her by not.
Our former relevant colleague Adam Smith one time told me that he met Dickie V at a signing, at like a little meet and greet, and he said he was just like he is. That he went to go get his basketball signed, and this is what he goes. He goes, "You should get one of my Dickie V basketballs. It's got a white spot where guys can sign it. It's awesome, baby." And then he's like, he really dropped the "awesome, baby" line on me right there. He was trying to sell me a basketball, but still, he was Dickie V.
He has one of the most legendary voices in sports. Period.
Yeah. All right, Derek, what do you have?
Gen Z is stressed about money. So this is not new, but I always want to remind it. Like, we got a slice. First of all, I was talking to my mom about this today, and she was telling me, like, these young kids, they don't even own a home, and she was like going off about it. I was like, well, Mama, I don't think it's like it was back in the 80s and the 70s when you were at home buying age, And I got some stats to prove it. So right now, they on relevant.com, you can see that 60% of Gen Z is feeling very stressed about finances compared to 51% of millennials, which that's really not that big of a difference when you think about it. We're pretty stressed out too because life is kind of crazy on the millennials. But there's a lot of headwinds for Gen Z. 30% of their income compared to 25% of their income is going to home ownership. So imagine just 30% out the boom. That's going out. Student loan debt is piling on at a rapid rate. And interest rates are at a crazy high, although they were higher back in the 80s, but back in the 2010s, they were a lot lower. But guys, I'm just going to give you guys a stat that when I was on ChatGPT, I was like, how big is the difference owning a home now than it was back in the 80s? I'm going to send this to my mama. In the 80s, the average home price in the U.S. was $47,000.
What was the percentage of income though?
So I don't have. I could type in a percentage of income, but if we adjust for inflation, that same home, that 100,000. So they said that by the end of the 80s, it was $100,000 home. That would be about $250,000.
You're saying for the overall price of the home or the mortgage payment, Cameron? Because it would be probably
the mortgage payment. Yeah, the monthly payment, percentage of income. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because obviously we know for inflation, the average home in today's money would be $250, and today it's $400, give or take.
Something like that. It might be higher
it's
than
like
that.
417,000 compared to 47,000.
Yeah.
So 47,000 to 47 to 100,000 to own a home in the 80s. It's 417 to get one now.
That's wild. And the average income hasn't kept up with that level of increase. So
That's why me and my nice little 1-bedroom apartment, we're holding strong.
Though there is one interesting factor, and this is just, I feel like is somewhat notable. Do you know what the fixed average 30-year interest rate was in 1980?
80, it was in the double digits. It was like 17 or 18%.
Yeah, it was almost 81.
It's
It was,
10 to 18% in 1981, peaking at 1863.
Yeah. What is it today? Like
It's 8.
7? 7,
Yeah.
8?
7 or 8. Yeah.
It's like 8.2 for a mortgage.
So here you go, Cameron. It says that percentage of house income that went towards home ownership varied, but on average 25 to 30%.
Right. And what's it today, though? That's the question. Because that's the correct ratio. And when you like do your budgets, all the people are like 25% should go to your lodging. And it's like
Percentage of income spent on mortgage is 40 to 45%.
bam, there's your difference.
There's your difference.
Yeah.
People are broke just to live. I mean, apartments, if we did the same thing, if we're talking millennials and Gen Z, apartment costs, like my first apartment, Kev on stage kind of posted about this the other day. His first apartment in the early 2000s was like, $540 a month. That was what mine cost too, $540 a month. I lived on my own, whatever. Emily's paying a lot more than that, for the literally same apartment. Yeah. I see her apartment on Zoom and I'm like, that is literally the apartment layout that I had, my first apartment, and I paid $540 a month. So,
Yeah, so you could have back then you could have a 10 to 18% interest rate and still pay way
25%,
less
25%
for a home. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's where people are like, oh, the interest rates are, it's like, no. But the cost of the actual building was lower. So even though it had higher interest rates altogether, it was still cheaper than today with lower interest rates. So, yeah. So the slice is that Gen Z is stressed about money.
Yeah. And sorry, guys, we got to fix it. We got to figure it out. I don't know how we're going to fix it, but we got to figure it out because you guys need homes.
That's right. All right. That'll do it for Slices. Make sure to check out relevantmagazine.com every day where we are covering a lot of stuff. You should tag along. It's been really fun lately. All right. Stay tuned. Up next, John Erwin joins us. This episode of the Relevant Podcast is brought to you by the Every Woman's Prayer Journal from Tyndale House Publishers. Living a life of extraordinary purpose starts with extraordinary prayer. The Every Woman's Prayer Journal is designed to add depth and intentionality to your prayer and Bible study, guiding you through scripture-inspired journaling sessions of praise, confession, thanksgiving, and requests. With 100 prayer sessions rooted in God's Word, it's the perfect companion to the Every Woman's Bible. Order your copy of the Every Woman's Prayer Journal today. It releases March 18th, and right now, you can save 25% by ordering your copy at Tyndale.com. Where our guest today is filmmaker John Erwin. He's the director of House of David, the new Prime series, which dropped on Friday. He's also the founder and chief content officer at Wonder Project, who's been behind recent movies like Unsung Hero, Jesus Revolution, and many other non-cheesy movies. We sat down with him to hear more about his first TV series and his vision for the future of Christian content. Here is John Erwin.
Well, I'm excited to talk with you today about House of David, and I hope you're excited too.
Oh, I love it. It's exciting to finally get to talk about it. I mean, I've never worked so hard and for so long on something, and it's been the project I've been dreaming of since I was a teenager, and so I love talking about it, and I hope you enjoy it.
Well, let's dive in then. You mentioned this sort of started when you were a teenager. So exactly how long have you been working on this project?
Well, it's you should never underestimate long seasons of preparation for something, I guess. And even in David's story, it was like there was a 15-year gap of this kid being anointed king to having a crown on his head. And so for, the project originally, the first camera I ever owned, my dad bought me with money he didn't have. And we went to Israel the next day. It literally came in the day before we left. And to do a little documentary called In the Steps of Jesus. And I had never left America before. And so, history just comes to life when you go somewhere that old. I mean, and you realize that there's thousands of years of of history. And we stayed in the old city of Jerusalem and visited King David's tomb. And you could just feel the energy and the history of the place. And just that spark of curiosity happened right there. And it was the first script I ever wrote for a movie, long before I did the other movies that we made. I have not gone back and read it. I don't know. I was very young, but I tried. And so every film that I've had the privilege of being involved in making, it really was trying to develop the skills necessary and the box office to be able to get the resources to do David's story. I mean, this has always been the dream project. I always figured somebody else would do it. And I would just get to be a fan. So the fact that I am getting to tell this story with such a great team of people and a great collaborator in John Gunn and a great speed dial friend in Dallas Jenkins, who sort of paved the way for it, is a dream come true.
What is it about David's story that you resonate with?
I've thought a lot about that of why do we need the hero's journey stories? I love anything involving a hero's journey, whether it's Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars, all those. I'm a sucker for those types of stories. And I think David is kind of one of the original of those. He's like the archetype of the archetypes, or he's the origin of the origin stories. And this is this 3,000-year-old, boy chosen to be king. And in a nation that already had one and slaying this giant, the idea of David and Goliath is really, even with people that have no idea what the story's about, it really is synonymous with the underdog. And so I've thought a lot about, why do we need these stories and what do we derive from them? And I just think it's written in our soul to desire a destiny, to want to have some sort of a purpose that's bigger than we are, to want to have odds to overcome, to want to have a destiny to fulfill, that's meaningful and a part of a bigger story. I think that is just something written. It's a part of being human, and it's deeply written on our souls. And I think that's why we're drawn to these stories, is we all want to be capable of something greater, I think. And David really embodies that concept, especially in the early part of his life as he ascends.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting to hear you talk about this, because when I think back on the other movies that you've done, I see the hero's journey in all of those. Would you say that the hero's journey is the connecting piece throughout your filmography?
That is a great observation, because it's true. As I think about the stories, that is an element in all of them. And I would say that I don't overthink it, but I am sort of in awe of the fact that there's some forces that guide you to a story you're supposed to tell that are divine, and I can't really explain them, or that there's some inner voice that draws you to a certain story, and the hero's journey or the story of someone called to something bigger and struggling and failing, and finding their way, those are just stories that I love. And certainly biblical stories, a story like Woodlawn or American Underdog or Jesus Revolution. Yeah, you're making me rethink my whole career. But I also I love Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Star Wars. I love these type of stories, and even shooting the show in Greece, which is where we shot it. That's like the heart of Christopher Nolan's there somewhere doing the Odyssey, and so so it really is the heart of the hero's journey is one of the oldest transcendent stories told all over the world, and I think that there's reasons for it. You've really made me think about it for the first time. I'm like, you're right. I mean, certainly true adaptations of true stories, are a big part of my work as a director. The films that I've made with Andy and I've produced some fiction stories that are fiction. True stories are certainly a part of it, but you're right that they're all driven in large part by those. I'm a huge fan of Joseph Campbell, who wrote a book called Hero with 1,000 Faces, which is a book about comparative mythology that George Lucas relied heavily on with Star Wars. And I'm very interested in these sort of mythic archetypes and trying to understand why we need them. It's fascinating. Maybe the reason is we're all wired to need a savior, kind of in our bones. We need a hero, but for whatever reason, these stories are a part of the human condition, and we're all drawn to them. And perhaps that is a galvanizing theme in my career that I've just now realized.
And to be clear, I love the hero's journey too. I think this is a good thing. And I actually think your films are part of this kind of Christian renaissance that we're in right now, where we've proven finally that you can have films and shows that tell these faith stories in a non-cheesy way.
I'll say this. Thank you. I'll say this, that films are never complete. They're only abandoned, they say. But I do feel that with every film I made, I don't watch them typically for a very long time. Mm-hmm. But I can go back and watch them and say, at that point in my career, I left it all on the field. That was the very best that I could do at that point. And I've gotten bigger, or I've gotten better, I hope. But I think that is true. You want to give it all. You want to God deserves our very best. And you really want to dedicate yourself to a craft if you want to have a voice within that craft. You really want to try to be, as Steve Martin says, to be undeniably good. And so that has been the quest. Many things that I've made, I can only see their flaws, but I do think that that's a wonderful term, the idea of a Christian Renaissance, because that was a time that there was such a fusion of faith and art, and leads to things that we still celebrate today. And in terms of classic art. And I think that it really, the credit goes to the audience, because the reason I'm able to tell David at this scope and scale, which you need to tell the story of David, and have this global release with Prime Video, and yet I'm in creative control as a believer of that was a non-negotiable in the negotiation. Mm-hmm. The reason we were able to get that is because our voice as an audience has been so clearly heard, and these things have worked. They've made money. They've been successful in the industry. And when that happens, then we get to kind of like level up each time and get a little more resources, and then we learn a little more about the craft. And then what I love right now is that there's this group of filmmakers that are collaborating together in a pretty cool way that I'm privileged to be a part of. My brother and I, Dallas Jenkins, John Gunn, who makes this series with me, Britt McCorkle, who's working with Annie right now on the sequel to I Can Only Imagine, did Jesus Revolution with me. There's this wonderful group of creatives, and we're all really trying to will each other on to success and comment constantly on each other's work. I'm calling Dallas like every day right now, and it's a wonderful group of friends that are we're just trying to do the best work. We hope that there's many filmmakers coming behind us that will far outshine and exceed our talents and abilities, and we hope to be paving the way for them. But it's fun to do it as a group, and to be a part of it in any way is an honor.
That was John Erwin. Make sure to check out House of David, which is on Amazon Prime. All right, stay tuned. Up next, is Florida headline or not? This episode is brought to you by Josh Nadeau's new book, Room for Good Things to Run Wild: How Ordinary People Become Everyday Saints. Have you felt stuck in your faith? And no matter how many new things you try, you still end up with a dissatisfying Christian life? We invite you to rediscover beauty and wonder in the holy ordinary with the new book, Room for Good Things to Run Wild. Josh Nadeau is the artist behind Sword and Pencil, and through rich storytelling, liturgies, and artwork, you'll discover a way to move beyond trite platitudes to an embodied theology that transforms your whole life. Join Josh on a pilgrimage to rediscover the rich and wild world that God's created for you and the way He's created you to experience it. Start the journey today. Room for Good Things to Run Wild is now available in print, ebook, and audiobook formats wherever books are sold. Okay, it's time for...
Is it a Florida headline or not?
Florida headline or not, I set it up earlier. Florida headlines, Florida man headlines get national attention. So I'm going to test your knowledge of what's really going on down here in the Sunshine State. I'm going to read a headline to you. You're going to tell me if it's real or not. And 1 point each. Here we go. Derek, we're going to start with you.
Let's get it.
Florida man dressed as a pirate arrested for firing a musket at passing cars.
Nah, bro.
That was real. The Tampa Bay Times reported on it. That is a real story.
Where did he get a musket?
It's Tampa. They love Buccaneers down there.
I love that that's your explanation. It's Tampa.
You can
Anyone
get
can get a
them at the
musket.
gas
Yeah, I was
station.
gonna say, that's not where do you even buy a musket from?
They have the whole Gasparilla
Dollar
Festival.
General.
They love their pirates down in Tampa.
I'll say most 7-Elevens have like 6 right behind the counter. Not that expensive. Right next to the Zen.
So, like, you talk about you put the ball in there, you put the powder in there, and you stuff it in there and light the thing and shoot it.
I'll take one of those cherry mint Zen packages and the single load musket, please. Right behind the that one. Give me that scratcher, too.
Sir, do you need the loader stick or do you have your own loader stick?
I got a couple in the car.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah. So
make it two cherry mint Zen packets.
Jesse, Florida woman claims wind blew the cocaine into her purse during a traffic stop.
I know that. Well, it probably did. It's very windy down there, and it's just blowing in the wind if you're in like certain parts of Miami. So sure, yeah.
That is a real headline. Yes, the Smoking Gun reported it. All right, Emily, Florida man arrested for practicing karate on swans in a park.
Hold on, Emily, think about this. I'm not certain that's a crime in Florida. So just
he was arrested. Oh, so you're saying the headline may not be real because it says he was arrested.
Because clearly
got it. Yeah.
While I do take that in consideration, I think it's true.
It is a real headline. It happened in downtown Orlando where we have swans.
I remember at Lake Eola.
Yeah, Lake Eola.
Wasn't you,
Weekly
Jesse?
reported
Be
it.
honest.
Yeah.
I was at court recently.
Florida is not a real place.
About a matter similar to this.
It's not a real place. I'm convinced it's not a real place. I've been there. It can't be a real place. Like it doesn't exist.
Derek, here we go. Florida man arrested for attempting to ride an alligator through drive-through window. Like he was trying to pick a
Ain't no way. You ain't riding no alligator.
Yeah, that was fake. Yeah.
Okay.
But if someone was going to try, it would happen in Florida.
Yeah.
Jesse, Florida man arrested for throwing an alligator through a drive-through window.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, that was real. Yeah. He didn't ride it.
How did you get that,
But he said, "Hey, cook this. Pop this in the deep fryer for me."
We're going to stick with the alligator theme. Emily, Florida man claims he was, quote, teaching alligator a lesson by throwing it onto a roof.
Again, not a crime, so not a true story. People do that all
I
the
wish I
time.
knew what the lesson was because that could really help me determine. I'm going to go with yes.
It was real. WPTV reported it.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, Derek, here we go. Florida woman finds python in washing machine after doing laundry.
No, it's not true.
It was fake, only in the sense that it was not a headline because something like that wouldn't have made the news down here.
Y'all have pythons in y'all laundry?
They actually tell you to.
Are you
thoroughly
kidding?
check.
South Florida is overrun. The Everglades are overrun. They have python hunts because there's no predators for it, and they were introduced. The real story is that having boa constrictors and pythons as pets in your terrariums is popular in South Florida. Certain cultures like that's popular, but they get too big, and so they don't know what to do with them. So they would drive out to the Everglades and dump the snakes into the Everglades. But there's no natural predators in the Everglades, and so the Everglades is overtaken by millions of pythons and boas. And so every year the state actually does a hunt that you can come and like kill them. But it's an issue down there. It's not up here, but it is down there.
That sounds dangerous though, going and hunting big boa constrictors.
They don't bite you. They just slowly squeeze. You can get out of it. It's fine.
Yeah.
All
Jesse.
The famous last words is what that sounds like to me.
Jesse, Florida man tries to evade arrest by cartwheeling away from police.
I'm going to say that's false.
It's real. WFLA reported it happened here in Orlando. Emily, Florida couple attempts to rob bank using live bees as weapons.
This could go either way. I'm gonna go fake.
It is fake. Yeah.
Okay.
It just sounds-
Thank
it
God,
sounds too real.
honestly.
If you'd have said that was real, bro, I'd have just ended the stream, bro. I ain't gonna even lie. I'd have just got off here because I'm not gonna get no more of them right.
All right, last round. Here we go. Emily, have you been keeping score, by the way?
Yes. Derek has 1. Jesse and I each have 2.
Okay, here we go. Derek, Florida man accidentally butt dials 911 while in the middle of a crime.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that's real. That is real.
I think that can happen anywhere. I ain't gonna even lie.
Most arrests in Florida are a result of 911 butt dials by criminals.
Yeah. Jesse, Florida man calls 911 to report that he's lonely and just wanted to chat.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they get that all the time. Down
That is real.
with
Miami
a lot
Herald.
of elderly community, just looking for someone to chop it up with.
Emily, last one. Florida man caught using a taco as his driver's license during a traffic stop.
I mean, how would that even work? I'm going to go false.
Yeah, it's false. All right, good catch.
good.
All right. Who won?
Jesse and I tied for 3.
The
there
state
you
of
go.
Florida. Yeah.
The state of Florida won.
I don't know.
State of Florida.
All right. That'll do it for it.
Is it a Florida headline or not?
Well, thanks again to John Erwin for joining us today. Make sure to check out House of David on Amazon Prime. Also, make sure to check out issue 116 of Relevant. Now, Nate Bargatze's on the cover. I tell you about this every single episode. But you know what I was realizing? We are putting out magazine-level content every day at relevantmagazine.com. So for 3 months, I promote these same 10 stories. And you, listener, may not realize how much other great content we're putting out covering, faith, life, culture, justice. Make sure to check out relevantmagazine.com every day. Also, follow us on the socials. A lot's happening over on IG. We've seen so much traction lately. It's been insane. I think our followers have grown 50% last 2 months. A bunch of our posts are getting 40, 50, 70, 90,000 likes. It's insane, the engagement that's happening over there. So check that out as well. If you don't follow us on IG, you're missing out. We're also on Facebook and X and, all the places. Make sure you're following along. Also, we're posting clips from the interviews and the guests from the podcast over on Reels, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok. So while it's not show clips yet, that is coming as part of a major kind of reboot, overhaul, bunch of stuff happening. I say things too early, but a lot's happening. But check out the stuff we're doing on social media for now. So relevantmagazine.com, bookmark it, check it every day for the latest, and make sure you're following along on social. Okay, on that note, we'll wrap it. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Derek Miner.
I'm Emily Brown.
We'll see you on Friday if I hit record on the next podcast. So have a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
Relevant Podcast Network.